Good evening, everyone, and hello. Um, Today I am going to be reviewing my final game. This is going to be the last game of the series against Daniel Taylor. Game number 7 out of all of my games that I played at Worlds. I'm looking forward to this one. I've watched this back far too many times to count. Um, I mean that's a lie. It's 6 or 7, but I've too many times to watch a 2 hour game of X Wing. So I feel like I know it pretty well at this point, and yeah, it'll be interesting to break it down, really see where I think the ebb and flow of the game went, and where mistakes were made, where um, each player had opportunities to win, advantages to win, etc., and whether or not um, playing differently, different moves would have made a difference. So this might be a little longer than my standard one, apart from the fact that this game is around 2 hours long. It almost went for the entire distance. Hey, Daryl, thank you very much. So I'm gonna go through all of it. We'll see how long it takes. Hopefully not too long, as it is 11:30 already. But yeah, we'll go through it and we'll see how we go. So as always, I've got the sound off for this one. What I am going to do is I'm just going to move. I'm not going to bother moving the chat box. You can see that Wedge has Crackshot over here. We're just going to have a chat about rocks. So, first rocks that go on the table. You can see Daniel is getting those rocks out of the way ASAP. I believe that's its range 2 ruler. But that is, yeah, he's cornered the big rock. He doesn't want any asteroids in the way of his fairly beefy formation. At which point, I want the rocks in the way of his beefy formation. I don't want to allow him to turn inwards. So yeah, that is his range 2. I've put this just inside of range 2. Fairly standard deployment in the rocks for me because of the fact that he's flying 5 ships. I don't want him access to turn in. I want this as a protection from the side. Dan then immediately goes, right, let's get that rock out of the way and chuck it over there. Hey Anna, good to see you again. So Dan has immediately got some of these rocks out of the way for him, putting them in the way. You can see it's about half a range band outside of range 2, but it is on the range 2 boundary at the side, so he's trying to get in the way and make a mess. You can also see Alex and Alec commentating on this game. I really like their commentary on this game. Yes, they make a couple of mistakes, but they're really excited. They have a very good time, and yeah, it's really cool to see them really getting stuck into reviewing the game. I mean, they both know the game quite well. Alex Davey on the right hand side used to review the game, and Alex Watkins is the head of OP. Used to review, used to make the game. I mean, he basically invented the entire rule set for it, and then has moved on to designing Legion. So remaining rocks, I've placed this one over here as my second. Dan decides, so I'm just going to ping back a bit. I got distracted talking about commentators. Dan placed this one here, and then I placed the final one over here just to provide myself with a bit of space. And thank you, Gamer, for the follow. Hey, Mark, good to see you. So that's the asteroid. Just having a look at these, the idea of this placement for me, I have this one over here and this one over here to prevent Dan from coming in so easily at the sides. I want to use these for protection. I want to split up his formation if I can. My next rock would have gone here, but it was basically Dan kind of did me a favor by putting this one here, but also it's more of a position where he wants it. It's a bit out of the way, provides nice easy channels. I would have preferred to have it over here so that this was an open space that I could use to come into and split him up. He's tried to do the opposite to me, so I put this one over here to prevent him from easily coming into this space. And if he's going to come into this space, he has to come in a nice straight funnel where it's hard to turn out the sides. So that was the idea of that one. So, looking at this game, I'm not sure how he's going to deploy. He's got 5 ships. It's not the standard Rebel Beef. I'm curious to see how he goes. And at this point, it's very clear that he has a plan. So it was at the point where Jake went down sideways that I looked at it and went, okay, this is interesting. He's obviously got a good deployment here because one of his ships is facing forwards, one of his ships is facing sideways. It is, at the end of the day, a jousting formation, so he's obviously planned in a set of moves that will allow him to get some good engagements. Knowing that Dan is in the final, he's obviously a phenomenal pilot. So when someone comes in with a deployment that is planned to this level, I am very aware that he's got something up his sleeve. He knows the first couple of turns. He's got some plans. He knows where he's going. As much as I might be messing around looking at the camera, I was very aware that these ships could be going in some worrying directions. Okay, so he's got his 4 ships down there. Looking at this, Whisper is definitely not going opposite the Swarm. She wants to come up the flank, so Whisper decides to go up the side in her standard position. She can use this rock to basically protect her and not get shot by anything. The idea is that I want to draw the Swarm into this area over here if Dan is silly enough to fly into it. You can't see it, but Grand Inquisitor is going to go over there. He's bait. He just wants to draw the entire Swarm over down this way. I think, honestly, I probably could have put him right in the corner this game. I didn't have to put him quite so far forwards. I put him about level with the asteroid. But I think putting him right in the corner would have given me another turn of stalling and would have maybe forced Dan to be a bit more careful with Wedge, separated him out a little bit. That would have helped my case a little bit more. So there we go. And then Wedge is down on the flank and Vader goes down there. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to skip forward a little bit. Hopefully we'll get a top-down view before any ships move. There we go. You can see where the Inky is there. So I think it would have been easier for me to put Inky here. So I don't have any system phase over to Dan. We're not going to go top-down, so let's just have a chat about this here. Wedge being on the flank is annoying. I was expecting the entire Swarm to just Wedge goes 1 forward and he turns into his formation at this point. And this is where life gets a bit interesting because the series of moves from Dan here, there we go. There's the top-down view, so we can see where his ships are. Now Wedge is just being hidden underneath the bit here. You can just see his foils token. So I wanna review this. So the little bandit goes there. Brayling goes 1 forward. Still hasn't turned sideways. This guy also goes 1 forward. Blount. There we go. And Jake, I imagine, does a hard turn. Little hard one. Yep, there's a little hard one. Okay. And he's going to stay there? Yeah, he's going to... So he just takes a focus. So I just want to address this formation for a second. What Dan has immediately done is he's immediately creating a lot of threat. If the rebels had all turned in and gone 1 forwards, his threat bubble would be here. That's it. At the moment, his threat bubble reaches all the way around this zone, and Wedge hasn't moved yet, so the threat bubble could be all the way up to here. So essentially, what he's doing is he's covering about a third of the board with his ships. Most rebel players will point all their ships in the same direction, so you have a threat bubble here, a threat bubble here, or basically the areas that you're not allowed to fly into as an ace player are a lot smaller. Dan's ships are still very close together. He hasn't split them up, but he is threatening large areas of the board. So in these first couple of turns, he is very effectively trying to shut down space. So he's doing quite well at that. So Inky does the 2 forwards, just trying to bait all of the Swarm down here. Again, it would have helped me if he was here. Would have threatened another turn in. Doesn't do anything there. I'm just asking if he has any jam in his list, whether or not I need to take a target lock. So I do, because he has a jamming beam, so I take a lock on the rock just in case. You never know. So Whisper does 2 bank, cloaks up, gets ready for decloaks and things. She is just patiently waiting to get around the side of this Swarm. If she's able to do that, then she is going to cause a lot of problems. Now Wedge, 4 forwards, I believe. Yep, there's the 4 forwards. You can't see it. And this is... we'll just wait for Vader to move and then we'll have a chat about this while planning phase is happening. And then he does a boost as well. So he has his foils closed. He does a little boost over there. Right. So we'll just get Vader moved. Once Vader's moved, we'll have a look at this formation and what Dan has done and what I've done. So, yeah, that'll do. So we'll put Vader there. So what we've got here, if we have a look at the rebels, This rebel section is fairly slow moving. It's got a lot of threat. It's threatening all of this area of the board. All of that area. Very big threat zone. Wedge on his own threatens everything over here. Inky cannot turn in. Doing a one-on-one against Wedge is a really bad idea for me, because there is still enough threat with Jake going super, super fast. I mean, he doesn't even need to go fast. Just 2 forwards, curvy boost. He's still over here. He can go either way. But then Wedge gets a focus and then can react to wherever I'm going. If Whisper comes down here, then it's very easy for Wedge to one bank and then one bank and end up in a really good position, not being threatening by Whisper. And then the entire swarm can go collapse. If Whisper goes up here, then Dan knows that Wedge is completely safe to come down, forward boost 4 forwards, could open his foils. He's got a focus, does the boost. And then he's got a really good shot on anything up here, and he's immediately flanking. So there are so many options available to him with this move, and he's dealt with this rock really, really well with the 4 forwards and the boost. He also has a 2 hard, just turn into the rest of the formation. But it essentially means that Inky can no longer come off this way. So unless Inky fancies one-on-one-ing with Wedge, he's been a bit risky with Wedge, putting him here. But because I set my major damage dealers over here, Wedge is perfectly happy to one-on-one against Inky. And because he's got the backup of the rest of the swarm, he's basically just corralling all of my ships over this way. So at some point, I think I should have tried to get Inky behind Wedge to make him think about something. But we can deal with that later. So this is a really nice opening from down. I'm trying to do the same thing. You can see with Vader up here, I've got a very easy threat to come over here. So I'm trying to drag Dan's ships over this way so that at least something can get behind him. So what we'll do is we'll just have a bit of a skip through here. I do the barrel roll just to clear Whisper out of the way. And I target lock the rock because he has a jamming beam. And we go back to dials. So thinking for next turn, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? My thinking is that Dan is likely going to go slow again. He's going to slowly encourage this net. And this is the point where I'm thinking, okay, this next turn is going to define the game. It's going to define what happens. So we'll see what happens next turn. For now, I'm just hoping to draw him further out of his corner. Let's see what he does. Is he going to come out of his corner? If not, then what am I going to do about it? So Vader here is just going to carry on banking around this way. He doesn't want to go too fast because otherwise he'll get caught in the corner if everything turns this way. He doesn't want to go too slow because otherwise he's too close to Whisper. So he wants to provide, does a bit of a bank move, has barrel rolls open to him. I do a 2 bank because the 1 bank would have not allowed the barrel roll this way. Whisper, I could decloak down this way, but then again, too much threat from Wedge puts him in the same place as Inky. So I'm going to decloak up this way, do a little 1 bank, and maybe even barrel roll backwards depending on where I need to go. That allows Whisper some nice decloak options. She can come back in here and turn in to be back in the center. She can decloak across this way. And get close to the board edge if I need to. Yeah, just gives her lots of options. And Inky, probably going to do a 1 bank here with Inky, because that provides some options of barrel rolling away. If I do the hard 1, I'm not sure whether I should have done the hard 1 here. The problem with the hard 1 is that it brings me very far forwards if I need to get away. If I do the hard 1 and a barrel roll, then I have to completely turn away. If I want to engage, if I want to get away from Wedge next turn. Doing a 1 bank and a barrel roll allows me a 5 forwards and a good escape option. So I don't want Wedge to be coming in backed up by Jake and to be doing things. So Whisper decloaks up this way. Rebels, in my view, they're taking the bait. This is fine. They're coming around this way. This is where I was expecting Dan to try and engage, around this position. He was never going to be coming through the rocks, even if I wanted him to. So my thinking was, right, let's see if he can get around here. So he's keeping all of his ships at an angle. Braylon does the barrel roll, doesn't need to stress himself at this point. Still keeping a nice wide arc on the ships. And there we go, Blount comes around. Does a nice little hard 2 there. It's a real shame that the Zed's barrel rolls are red. Let's just put it that way. But does it anyway. Or is it only the scum ones that are red? No, it is all of the Zeds. So he does a little barrel roll. There we go. Okay, and then Jake there's the two forwards. Now, for those of you that haven't paid attention yet, this is really important. So, Jake does a barrel roll, gives himself a focus. Hey, thank you, Darth Dandy. Thank you for the sub thing. So he does a barrel roll, checks Wedge's dial, and he's thinking. And he's thinking a little bit too hard. This is the point where if you've got the sound on, you can hear me ask Dan, what are the linked actions on Wedge? Because of the fact that he spends so long thinking about a simple whether or not he's going to pass a focus, it gets me thinking, right, is there anything else going on? I'd forgotten about the fact that the X-Wing had a linked boost. However, at the point where he's thinking on Jake, I know he has a decision to make. Why is he thinking that hard? Why did he check Wedge's dial? He checked the dial to check whether or not he'd done a blue move. The reason that was is because if you think about the linked action here, if he gives Wedge a focus, Wedge can then boost a red action, take a red boost off that focus. It then allows him, if he's dialed in a blue move, to do that blue move, clear the stress he just gained, and take a second action. So it allows Wedge a reposition essentially in the Initiative 4 step. Really, really, really useful against droids because it's a pre-move reposition. So against a droid swarm, Wedge can be a lot more effective than he normally is and allow him to be a lot more of an arc dodger because it's basically giving him supernatural reflexes as long as Jake is nearby. Now, it takes a little bit of practice to fly Jake in this way, basically keeping him far enough back that you can always be boosting or barrel rolling next to Wedge to deposit a focus token on him. Thankfully, I spotted this early enough that I was aware of it and I was thinking about it for future turns, because then it made me... it basically meant it didn't catch me out, the idea that Wedge could be boosting before he moved to reposition his angle. So he's decided not to give the focus to Wedge here. Inky did the 3 bank just to give him some distance. And then he's probably just going to barrel roll backwards here across the board. I think I was a bit worried about how effective Wedge would be here. I think I probably should have done a 1 bank because this is putting my ships a bit too close together. But we get Inky out there. He's got a nice consolidation move. At this point, probably in the last turn actually, I have made the decision to essentially joust down. Sounds strange, being a rebel list, but because I know, looking at his deployment, looking at how well he's put his ships in here, I don't think I'm going to be able to get one of my ships around the side of it. I don't think that's going to happen. Because he's flying pretty damn well, like Wedge is now in the perfect position. He's come in, he's boosted in. Jake can very easily do a hard 1 and a boost to get into range 1 of Wedge here and just give him loads of options. Because this is now a possibility, I need to get Wedge off the board as soon as possible. Because Wedge can kill Whisper. My win condition in this game is I make sure that Wedge dies, Whisper stays healthy, and then Whisper wins the game for me. Because against 2 Zeds and a B-Wing, Whisper just... It doesn't matter if she's on her own, she can win that game against 2 Zeds and a B-Wing. So I need to keep Whisper away from Wedge. The easiest way to do that is by feeding Invader and thinking that it's a good decision to trade Wedge for Vader. Whereas in reality, if I can kill Wedge and only lose Vader, or just lose most of Vader and not all of Vader, then I am very much up in this game because of the effectiveness of Whisper against these beefy rebel ships. They can't turn as well. So I'm now thinking, right, I need to catch Wedge out. I need to get a position because all of these ships are fairly scattered. I need to provide a juicy enough bait so that Wedge wants to come and get me. He wants to come and boost in and attack my ships. Now, being aware of this lovely little move that Wedge can do here, I'm being quite careful. Now, at the moment, Vader's just done the 2 bank. There we go. He's over there. He's sitting here. I can't come forwards. So I have 2 options. I can go a 1 bank. I mean, I could go up this way, but that'd be suicidal. Vader would just get jumped on by everything. I could turn down this way and then barrel roll backwards. I was seriously considering it, just disengaging with Vader. Sorry. The problem I have with that is that if I disengage with Vader, Whisper and Vader would be very, very close together, and it's very easy to jump on me. If Dan comes in fast, then I'm in trouble. Vader can take quite a lot of firepower here, so I'm thinking of baiting his swarm down around this asteroid. So if I do a one bank and a barrel roll backwards, then it provides me with good escape options for next turn. If I absolutely have to, I can 3 hard away and just go away this way. So the idea here would be that I can bait him in around this area. I can murder Wedge as soon as possible, and then I can disengage and come back later, having not taken too much firepower. Because I'm thinking, right, he's been pretty aggressive with Wedge so far. He's come 4 forward boost, he's come hard 2. I'm expecting Wedge to go a bit slower this turn, but if I can bait him in, then I can murder Wedge 3-on-1, Wedge shooting one of my ships, probably do a shield or 2, but then if I can get 3 good shots on Wedge, I can do a lot of damage. So Whisper does decloak backwards, either going to be a hard one or a one bank in here, just to get some shots on this area. Probably doing the hard one, just in case Wedge decides to do the boost and a 2 forwards and commit down here. Inky is either going to hard turn in or come around the other side of this asteroid. It depends where I want to catch Wedge. I probably should have hard turned Inky here and boosted up, but I wasn't quite sure whether or not the hard turn and then the boost would clear this asteroid. Again, the one bank would have been a much better move because I would have very easily been able to be here and threatening. So this was already a mistake from Inky, going slightly too fast. Now you can see Dan, he's just coming slower here. He's got his net. He now just wants to execute it. So he's trying to corral me into the middle, thinking, right, I want to waste some time, give myself more information for where the Imperials are going to be. He's probably also thinking about the fact that Vader might just disengage here, so he doesn't want to get it too aggressive. So Jake comes in, and now he thinks. And this is, again, another indicator that he's got more things to think about. So Jake does the boost here. Because he's boosted, he can give Wedge a focus. And he puts down the focus, and he thinks about it. And he just goes, no, I'm not going to boost it. So 2 forwards here. 2 forwards here. Again, maybe I should have done the 1. But what I'm thinking here is right, he's got the focus. He could very easily come down this direction. Because he hasn't boosted, if Wedge goes fast now, because I'm thinking, right, he's got the focus, he could do a 4 forwards. He's not stressed. So if he does a 4 forwards, trying to catch Vader with everything, thinking Vader might go fast, Inky has to be in position to counter him. And so Inky has to be over here to allow me to get, if Vader comes forward and Inky comes forward, and I have 2 good shots on Wedge, so I can, again, I'm trading 2-on-1, and hopefully Vader doesn't take too much pain from here. Because I've done a 1 bank, I know that, he doesn't. So Vader can do the 1 bank, barrel roll backwards, target lock and focus. So he can shoot Wedge. Inky can shoot Wedge if Wedge goes 4 forwards. And these B-Wing and Zed are not going to be in range. So I basically get a free 2-on-1 turn with these guys. I could have... Inky should have a stress. I think I'll put it on in a second. What I could have done is I could have left Ground Inky there or barreled him backwards to give him better options. But that means that everything in the Rebel list focuses on these guys as well. So just putting Inky here is enough for threat. And it provides him with good opportunity shots on Wedge, which is what I was hoping for, because the whole aim of the game for the next couple of turns for me has got to be kill Wedge. So Whisper did the hard 2 because I wasn't quite sure. I think she wanted to be a little bit further forwards just in case Wedge came faster in here. And she takes a passive sensors for the same reason as Ground Inky. If Wedge comes forwards, she wants target locks. She wants to be doing as much damage as humanly possible to that X-Wing. I was hoping to catch a range 3 shot on Wedge here. As you can see, now Dan has been nice and careful. He just did the 1 forwards. So none of my ships are going to shoot him. None of his ships are going to shoot me. And there is no way that he boosts here. So Dan has done a really good job of delaying the engagement. I was hoping that he would get aggressive with Wedge and try and catch out Vader. So I stalled, he stalled. The reason I stalled is I was expecting him to go fast. The reason he stalled is because he wasn't expecting me to go fast. He called me very well on this turn. So, however, he had the option, depending on where Whisper decloaked, he could have boosted Wedge. So that's the nice thing about reacting to the decloaks, is you can plan stuff. So Vader then does a one bank. After doing the one bank, because the plan on the one bank was just to react to whatever Dan has done. If he came in super hot, then Vader could bank up this way and try and get around the back. Sorry, barrel roll up this way. If he doesn't, then Vader can barrel roll away behind the asteroid. Now I'm just checking ranges here. I'm looking and seeing if I skip forward a little bit so we can see the table, hopefully. There we go. So, whoop, lovely. Pause. So it's not in range here, so I'm just thinking of next turn. I don't want to risk the bandit being in range. I'm considering whether or not I barrel roll up here to try and bait all of these ships this way. But at the end of the day, it's probably not worth it. Essentially, I have to work out all of my moves for next turn before I barrel roll Vader. So that's why this one took a little time. I decided to barrel roll him back this way as far as possible, because that gives me escape options for next turn. If I want to, I can 3-bank down here. I could hard 3 up this way as well and try and barrel roll him, boost with the afterburners and barrel roll up here. To try and get away from the B-Wing and the Z over this way. So the nice thing about Vader is that that would have been so 3 hard would have put him there, boost, barrel would have put him about here. So it would have been risky, but if I think Dan's going to come in fast, that is an option. So are we going to get a bit of view? Let's scroll forward until we get a good view. Right, come on. Almost there, almost there, almost there, almost there. Right, so awesome. So let's have a look at these ships. Over here, we've got all of Dan's ships. First thing to move is the Bandit. Bandit is coming in banking. He's probably not going to turn. He might turn because he might expect Whisper to come up here at Wedge and Inky to come up here. But likelihood is he's probably going to bank over this way and hedge. B-Wing is going 1 forward or 1 bank, and just if it was me, I would 1 bank this way and barrel roll, just to cover as many options as possible and get me pointing in the right direction. Plus, Braden wants to be stressed. Blount does a 3 bank, comes in aggressive and takes a focus. 3 bank puts him in a lovely place to take his crack shot option as well, and then takes a focus and just waits for things to come into range one of his friends. The interesting question here is Wedge and Jake. So I was thinking this turn there is a very nice 1 bank 2 forwards move from Wedge here. Gets him right in the middle of the thick. He can react to where Whisper goes. If Whisper went forwards, he just does the 2 forwards, and then he can boost out if he needs to and not get shot by Whisper. So I'm fully expecting Wedge to be taking Jake's actions, taking Jake's free actions, and reacting to what I do with Whisper, and basically getting his free focus, boosting off that, and then taking target lock so he has a fully modified Wedge shot, which is going to do an awful lot of damage. So my thinking this turn is that, okay, I can't really avoid Wedge. I've gonna have some firepower coming in. So what I need to do is I need to mitigate that firepower. Who is Dan going to shoot? There is a possibility he's going to shoot the Grand Inquisitor. That's not a problem. Grand Inquisitor can take the firepower. There is a possibility he's going to go for Whisper, so Whisper needs to go backwards as far as possible. So you can see here that Whisper has decloaked to the side. I'm going to plan in a 1 bank this turn. A 1 hard would be too much risk of Wedge hitting me in the side, so a 1 bank provides me with all of the options. I can trigger a passive sensors and just wait for Wedge to come into my arc. And then also next turn, if I need to, or depending on where all the rest of the rebels have gone, I could see if I can get around this side as well. Vader is a tricky one. Right now, I have 3 good options. Good option number 1 is completely disengaging with every single ship. I mean, Grand Inky can do a hard one over here and a boost. Whisper can decloak 2 bank. Vader can hard 3 afterburners. Just completely disengage and go, nope, we're not playing over here. Come and chase me some more, and then I'll set up a better engagement because all of his ships are in a good place. However, I feel like I can get a good catch on Wedge here. One of the other options is that Vader could hard 3 to here. If he hard 3s up this way, he then has an afterburners move and a barrel roll. So if all of these ships have decided to turn in, maybe I could dodge around the side, or maybe it's worth taking a couple of turns of firepower to get behind the rebels. The problem with that is that Dan's already shown that he's taken a couple of turns of going slowly. If he goes slowly again, Vader does a hard 3 and ends up right in the middle. Like, there is literally nowhere for him to go. He is slap bang right in the center of the rebel swarm, and he's going to get lit up. He's just going to explode. There is nowhere for him to go in that position. So because of that, I am careful. I obviously don't want Vader to be stuffed and caught. So what I decided to do is I decided to do a 1 forwards. I still have space to do it. I don't know where Wedge is going. I've got a pretty good idea about where these guys are going. So what I've decided to do is I decided to do a 1 forwards with the intention of barrel rolling over here. The idea being, if Wedge ends up over here as I expect him to be, Vader 1 forward barrel roll, target lock Wedge. He's got a really good shot on Wedge, probably going to do a couple of damage. Inky has a really good shot on Wedge. Whisper has a really good shot on Wedge. I could kill Wedge this turn if Wedge ends up over here. So that's my thinking. Why don't I try and get a good shot on Wedge? Now, the other option is if all of these guys do a hard turn, then I also have a barrel roll up this way. And I have the option of coming around the flank with Vader. Now, it's unlikely, but just in case Dan decides to turn the entirety of his list down this way towards Whisper, Vader can still get a flank on just with a 1 bank and barrel roll. So I do have 2 barrel roll options. It delays my decision, so I can base it on more information from Dan and depending what his ships do. So here goes Whisper's decloak. Decloaks as backwards as possible because I want a bit of range from Wedge if he comes in hot. And then we go up to Dan to see where he goes. Now, I called this wrong in the game because he does do the hard 2. At which point I'm thinking, amazing. He's going down exactly the way that I want to. So he takes a focus. Vader's feeling pretty happy right now. Then we reveal Braylon and we go, oh, okay, this is weird, but I can understand it. So Braylon wants to stay stressed. He doesn't want to change his maneuvers with the barrel roll. So he decides he's going to come in just like that, crash into the back of the B-wing, back of the X, the Z, that one, crash into the back of the Z. He keeps his stress token, so it means he's got his rerolls. He doesn't have double mods, but he does have a single modification. There goes Blounce, does a 2 bank instead of the 3 bank, but is pointing in the right direction. You can see that Dan is spreading his crack shots quite widely, which is a good thing for him. And here goes Jake. Does the 3 forwards, because he wants to stay relevant. Curve boost should fit here, around the corner. I'm surprised. Am I surprised? No, I think I was possibly expecting a 2 forwards barrel roll outwards and boost in, but he decided to go a bit more aggressive. He wants to get his crack shots in good positions. I feel like he was maybe expecting Whisper to decloak around the asteroid here. I'm not sure. But all of that is fine. Based on my present moves, not a problem. Inky's done a 1 bank. Whisper's done a 1 bank. So Inky is coming over here. Who can do a 1 bank and barrel outwards. Whisper does a 1 bank here and just loves it because she's only got 1 or 2 ships in range. Vader, not ideal, but he can just barrel behind the asteroid and he's fairly happy. He gets out of range of Blounce. He takes a couple of pot shots, but he's got the force. He's got stuff to back him up. So Inky says, cool, that's fine. Wedge, even if Wedge comes in here, then I can barrel roll and I'm still going to get a shot on him. So not a problem because he didn't boost. So I can barrel roll out of trouble, take a stress token, and not be in any bother. This shouldn't be an issue. So based on that, I'm perfectly happy to just keep with the stress, keep with the focus, keep all of his things and sit there. He's not taking many shots. Whisper is the threat this turn. So Whisper comes in, goes, I am relevant. Wedge cannot be here. Otherwise he dies, takes the passive sensors and dares him to bring Wedge in here. Now this is the turn where Dan pulls a thing of beauty, and I'm not really sure what his thinking is here. I believe his plan was to block Vader, I think. So Wedge dials in the 4 forwards. He keeps his foils closed. because he's got the. I'm not sure whether he was expecting Whisper to come up here. So because he's kept his fours closed, I get the impression he thinks that Vader might just be disengaging this turn. So he wants to get a good flank on with Wedge. So he comes around this way, and he decides to do the boost. I mean, if Vader had decided to do the 3 bank, the boost would block him. If he decided to do 3 hard, he would have gone straight past Wedge, I believe. So Wedge does the boost in here. Does this block the 3 hard? I don't think it does. I think the 3 hard would have cleared. So yeah, boosting in there, it provides Wedge with good options. He's got some shots. But what it also does is it gets him out of Inky's arc, and it gets him a shot on Whisper. Now, this is where I start to get concerned. Now, obviously, Wedge only has 3 dice, but he's still Wedge. Now, Vader can't stay here. He's got the asteroid. If I barrel roll down this way, which was my original plan, I'm taking free... I'm not shooting with Vader at all. And I'm taking shots back from Wedge with nothing in return. So I can't do that. So at this point, I have to trade. I have to make sure that Vader hits Wedge as hard as he hits me back. And I'm thinking, right, Wedge only has a focus. He doesn't have any target locks, and he only has 3 dice on attack. Vader hits him with 4. Like, I should win this trade. Now, I don't know how many of Dan's other ships can shoot me. There is a possibility I might get out of Braylon's arc if I barrel roll. I should be able to dodge this Z as well. And I'm thinking right now, I'm sitting in Blount's bullseye, and I don't want to be there. So I want to get out. I will hopefully dodge. I'll definitely dodge this guy. I'll hopefully dodge Braylon, and I'll get that range shot on Wedge. So we do the barrel roll. And you can see here, obviously I'm thinking that my plan is to trade for Wedge, because the barrel roll is fairly immediate. And I take the range 1 shot into Wedge. So we move the target lock. There we go. Chuck it on Wedge. Get ourselves a focus. Spend 2 force to do it, which isn't ideal, but not a terrible position for me. And take a focus. So choose violence. Go in hard. Again, my win condition is still to kill Wedge. At this point, I have 2 target lock focus shots onto Wedge. I would have liked 3. Unfortunately for me, Dan rolls 3 hits out of hand. Doesn't even have to spend the focus. Vader also rolls 2 symbols, which is nice. But the key thing here is he doesn't have to spend the focus. Vader taking a single shield isn't a problem at this point. I was expecting it. Wedge doing a shield to me, yeah, fine. He's got 3 dice. Vader should take a shield there. I was hoping to have to spend his focus to do it, though, because then I want to hit him back hard. Now, the frustration here is Vader's damage. Because whenever Vader rolls, he normally gets 4 hits. And he normally gets a crit in there as well. With average dice, there is a very good chance of pumping a crit into Wedge with Vader. Now, I get 1 crit, and I only get 3, which is frustrating. I've already spent the force and defense. Now he gets, blank evade, gets the average there. And he takes 2 shields. That's probably about right, but I would have liked 3. Now this is the issue. So Whisper shoots next? Yeah, Whisper shoots next. Okay, so Whisper moves her target lock onto Wedge. Gets her 3 dice with the focus and target lock. Whisper says, well, I guess I'll get 3, but that was the expected result anyway. A hit crit was the expected result. Now, this is unlucky from Dan. But, yeah, fair enough. I mean, he eventually had to spend his focus. So taking that damage, but it's only a hold breach. It's only a hold breach, so not terrible. Through the rock hurts, but not awful. So we've got some pot shots. Inky takes a shot at Jake. There we go. Now that one is lucky. Spends his focus though. And Jake only gets 2 mods. Probably would expect 3, but 50-50, so Jake does take a shield here. So Whisper has the evade because she hit something. And we go on to Dan's shots. So, into Vader. with Braylon. He's got 2 rerolls. And reroll 1, gets 3 hits. Not ideal. I don't have any force left. So we just have a bit of a discussion here about what happens when the dice goes out the tray. Last round I was playing you reroll it. The round before that, Dan had played on stream and he was saying that, it just keeps the result. So we just asked the judge what to do because obviously both of us have played different rules. So ended up, judge said re-roll it, and it stops arguments because it gets re-rolled into a blank, so not a problem. So we take 2 hits. So Vader's on 2 hull remaining, which stings, but about what I was expecting. I was hoping to not take that much damage from Braylon. I mean, he did only have a single mod. So far we've got 3 hits from Braylon, 3 hits from Wedge, and then Blount has a go. So Blount is definitely range 3. We're just making sure of that. Might actually be range 2. We'll find out. I'm not sure if that was range 2. We'll work out when I roll dice. So, Vader has 2 hull remaining. And again, Blount gets 3. So that's 9 for 9 out of hits so far. And 2 evades. So with the crack shot, Vader goes down. So I was expecting to go down to 2, maybe 1 health there. It really stings to go down to less than that. The fact that Dan managed to kill me like 9 out of 9 is painful. I just wasn't expecting that much firepower output. Maybe that was unexpected. I ran the numbers on this, and Vader dies 1 out of 10 times. So I'm still not unhappy with my decision to barrel roll onto Wedge. I feel like I did about the right amount of damage. With Whisper and Vader shooting, Wedge probably should have taken 4 damage. Vader probably should have been left on 1. So I think that would have been a fair trade. But yeah, that's not ideal right now. So we take all the ships away. I'll just skip through this for the sake of brevity. We put them back. Blount is called in with the crack shot. So he spends his crack shot and Vader dies. So at this point, what is going through my brain is, oh god, this could be one of those awful finals where you watch it and you go, how the hell did this guy get to the final table? In reality, that was a beautiful move from Dan. I'm not sure he expected Vader to be there, but the boost from Wedge put him just where he needed to be to threaten, and it worked out for him. So yeah, it's really nice flying. I just didn't see the 4 forwards. So Jake shoots, Inky shoots. I did a lot of damage this turn. I mean, I've done 5 damage to his list, and Dan has done 5 damage to me. Unfortunately, Dan's 5 damage was all into 1 ship. So, yeah, good move from Wedge to get him out of trouble. I think Dan realized the trouble that Wedge was going to be in. That's probably the reason why he boosted. Inky says, I don't care about your red dice, or maybe Whisper does, and just dodges everything. So at which point we go to the end of turn. We go to dials, we get the recloak, we get the force, and I have some serious thinking to do. Now, at this point, I know that I'm horrendously down in this game. Wedge is still alive. That's a real problem. If I'd have traded Wedge for Vader, then I'm fairly sure I can win. Because it went the other way, I am in a serious amount of trouble because Wedge picks it on Whisper for fun. She really, really likes dying to him just because she only gets 1 dice, and if Wedge gets a good hit, then poof. Also, Inky is one of the few things. Wedge is one of the few things that Inky is scared of. The Grand Inquisitor does not like Wedge 1 bit. However, there is the advantage that Wedge has a hull breach, and there is the threat of There is the threat of Whisper going and threatening Wedge this turn. So basically, the idea that if I can block Wedge with Whisper, and Grand Inky comes around and turns in and blows him up, then I'm in the same situation. I might take a little bit of damage to do it, but I could still kill Wedge. So that was my thinking here. Hopefully, Dan will be scared enough that Wedge is just going to run away. So my immediate thinking is that I need to put Whisper in a position that she can do as much damage as possible. She needs to go where none of Dan's ships are going to expect her to be, and kill something. She needs to get some damage back onto Dan's list. Otherwise, then I just haven't. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna lose the race because eventually Dan's ships are going to turn around again, and I'm going to explode. So the decision I make here is a ridiculously aggressive one. I decide that Whisper's going to decloak to the left. So Whisper goes and decloaks left and then 4 forwards. Because my thinking is, I know Wedge is there right now. A decloak left should clear me past that asteroid. Even if Whisper crashes into the front of Wedge, it's unlikely that Wedge is going to do the K-turn with that hull breach because there's too much threat of just getting blown up. He needs to go away. He needs to come back when he has a good opening engagement. He can't put himself in a position where he might not get any shots and just die. I was worried about the K-turn, but I thought it was worth it because it was a bit of a risk to do the K-turn here. And also, all game I have been incredibly cagey with Whisper. So suddenly getting massively aggressive is something that Dan wouldn't expect me to do. So I thought that was a really good option in terms of turning everything on its head and going straight at him. Now, Grand Inquisitor here, there is no way in hell that the Grand Inquisitor can commit. If you have a look at these ships, there are so many options for all of Dan's ships to come into this space. There are no options for Dan's ships to really threaten much around here. If he's completely turning away from Whisper, then he's doing the wrong thing. So Inky knows that the safest move in the game is just do a 1 bank over this way. If I turn in, then what's going to happen is that all of these ships, well, first of all, Jake could block him, and then I get 3-on-1 because Wedge just goes away and all 3 of these guys just come in on Inky, and then I've completely lost the game. I know that I've got about an hour and a half left, so Inky comes down here, Whisper goes up here and 4 forwards, thinking that if I can at least crash into Wedge, maybe I'll go past, but if I can at least crash into Wedge, then that should be a good position. And you never know, maybe he'll decide to boost again, because he's been doing that a lot, or he's been considering it a lot. And if he does decide to boost, then boost into 4K, then I've got a little bit of extra distance to him as well. So important turn, making sure dials are correct. There we go. And we put down the decloak. So decloak goes as far forward as possible. And at this point, I look at it and go, right, I'm in a hell of a lot of trouble because it doesn't quite clear. It's going to catch the back of the base. It's probably going to be about a quarter of the base on there. So, sorry, just reading Arnaud's comment there. Best move in the game. Having played the Phantom, I thought the best game was the decloaking you did and 3 bank left. Yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, if I had gone over here and just gone away. Sorry, clarify your statement, Arnaud. Don't quite understand what you mean there. So Bandit comes in here playing blocking duty. Essentially, if Inky had come in, because Whisper could have gone forwards and just come into the middle here and just tried to get shots. I don't think he was expecting me to come up this way. I think he was expecting Whisper to be around here, or to have come forwards. So Bandit is just threatening here. Jake comes in, and now that he knows that Whisper's there, he's got a hull breach on Wedge. From all of his moves this turn, I think he was expecting me to be around here. He knew that you probably couldn't catch Whisper, that Whisper was going to disengage somewhere. So it looked the impression. Oh, yeah, I got you. So Arnaud's saying that if I'd have 3 banked, I would have got behind his list. I think what Dan was thinking here is that he doesn't know where Whisper's going to go, so he can get into Inky. Now, boosting here, it seems clear he's going to give Wedge a focus. He's possibly blocking the move from Whisper if Whisper decides to come up this way, but he's threatening Whisper. And the fact that he decides to put in the stress boost, so he takes the focus, does the stress boost. I think at this point, right, Wedge is going to go away and he's going to attempt to just get rid of that whole breach. He's not really paying attention to the game right now. At which point, the B-Wing comes down here and you go, okay, so Dan's hedging his bets on this side. The B-Wing over here is just threatening Grand Inquisitor because why not? I mean, he's got a good shot. He's got a B-Wing. He might as well use it. So he comes in with these two, trying to threaten. If he gets the block, fantastic. And then Blount comes in, again, threatening into Grand Inky and saying, right, you're going to be around here somewhere. We're going to pour some firepower into you. Expecting Whisper to either be over here or over here somewhere that he can't shoot him and it doesn't matter. Inky says, nope, we're not playing this game. So Inky just disappears and does the boost and, yeah, nopes into the distance. I originally take the focus, but then I look at it and go, no, actually, none of your ships can shoot me, so I don't need to. And even if Blount can shoot me, it's only a 2-dice gun against the Force. I'm fine. Now comes the monster. Fully operational Whisper. Now, you can see here that if Whisper had crashed, he would have actually crashed into a rock, which would have been terrible for me here. But, because Wedge boosted, fitted in. I knew that I just had to get Whisper aggressive. She had to be shooting this turn. If I'd have come down here, you can see where all the down ships are. So this was the position I had to be in to help me win this game. So I dialed it in. It would have been pretty close to the back of Wedge's base, but it would have crashed into him. So, yeah, I'm glad that Dan boosted. So obviously we trigger passive sensors. Wedge then does a 2 hard. So it seems like he really did expect Inky to be around this place, and that Wedge is just fully committing to try and either get Whisper, who decommitted, or get Inky here. So moving forwards, we check the range onto Inky. Inky wasn't out, and yeah, we check some dice into the Z. So going on to Bormat there, I would never normally have done that full forwards. But the reason I put it in is because it was insanity. Like, there was no reason for Whisper to be there. That was the place she shouldn't have been. So there is no way that Dan is going to be planning for that move. It's also the place that's going to cause her to do the maximum damage possible if she's there, which I need to do. And also, hopefully, if he's not planning her to be there, even if she lands on an asteroid, she's got some pretty good decloak options next turn. So should be in a good place. At which point, Whisper touches Lieutenant Blount in bad places and does 3 damage to him, puts a damaged engine on him as well, which is great because where Inky is next turn, Blount doesn't get many good shot options. Basically locks him into doing a K turn. That's what I'm expecting Dan to do. So, just check some arcs. Inky has dodged everything. So, I'm not actually touching this. All I'm doing is I'm balancing it on the end of my finger. So Dan has all of the weight and he's moving it. He's just lining up that ruler. And then I'm just making sure that it is as in line as possible so that we can check it. And it is off the back of the base. So yeah, I drop the ruler there just to check, and it shows that it isn't in. Nice. So we check all the ships. Ships are out. Apparently, I managed to get everything out of arc this turn, which is really, really important because if Braylon is shooting me, then he's just so consistent, he's probably going to do damage. And importantly, I'm not stressed with Inky either. Not being stressed with Inky was a really, really big call that turn because as soon as Inky's stressed, he does become a bit more predictable. So, Whisper is now in a beautiful position. Let's just scroll back a little bit so we can see the top-down view of the board. This decloak fits. Whisper is in the perfect position to decloak hard 1. She does the candy cane. Jake can't stop her. He can do the hard 2 in the barrel roll, but Whisper will be in the way already because she decloaks first. Blount can't turn around, so even if he does the K turn, Whisper shoots first. Whisper will pilot skill Blount. Wedge is stressed, So he can't be given a focus by Jake. And even if he does the hard 2, he's shooting unmodified. So Whisper is fairly confident that she can kill him. So this turn, I do the pincer. I'm expecting, because the B-Wing is stressed, the B-Wing is going to come in here and barrel roll. Because of that, one back in a roll, I'm thinking, okay, if I trade with the B-Wing, I trade with the B-Wing, but I can probably dodge him if I do the hard 2, because the hard 2 just fits around the edge here. Almost did the hard 3, but I wasn't sure if it would clip the rock, so I didn't want to risk it. Basically, the thinking here is that if Inky boosts, because Blount can't turn, this guy's in a really bad position. He can't K-turn because the rock is in the way. I can get a beautiful flank on with Inky, and even if Inky's getting shot, he can take an evade and just sit there. Whisper now goes to work. I need to start removing ships from the table as soon as possible, so Blount is target number 1 because he's on 1 health. Wedge is also a massive target. If Wedge comes in here, Whisper does the hard 1, takes the passive sensors, and just annihilates him from the board. I'm ignoring Blount as long as I have Wedge in the firing arc. So, we put in some moves, we go forwards. Jake just comes around just has to bank around here. He has to go away. I was expecting him to do the hard 2 this way and boost, just to get around the back of me. I didn't think he'd bring in here and cluster up this area. The B-Wing needs to stay unstressed, really, because it needs to turn around. So, little Zed comes in here. Wasn't sure why this move happened. Maybe he was thinking I would turn away again. But I think it's the only good move that he's got, really. He could have gone the other way. He could have just K-turned onto the rock, but seems silly. The B-Wing just does the hard 2. He seems absolutely fine to keep Braylon stressed. I was expecting a 1 bank and a barrel, which would have given him a better angle. But again, I get the impression that Dan thought I was just going away this turn. That all the threat was on Inky, so Inky would have just done a 3 bank or something and run away. He can chase him into the corner and shut him down, hopefully before Whisper does too much damage. Jake comes around, can't really do anything here. The boost doesn't fit, so you might as well just take either a target lock or an evade and stay there. So he's probably just going to take evade here. Just skip through. So he takes his focus. Now, hard 2 from Inky. Hard 2 fits. Because Braylon got so aggressive, the 1 bank now boosts over. Wrapping back of the t-shirt. There we go. So we do the 1 bank, we take a stress, we take a focus. Inky has a beautiful shot. Now, if Wedge did the hard 2, Inky can shoot Wedge. If Wedge does a 1 bank, then he's going to have to boost to get a shot on me, in which case he's not going to be opening his wings, so it's only a 2-dice shot. And Inky has a beautiful kill shot into Blount here, so Whisper could even shoot Wedge. So here we go, there's a hard 1. Hard 1 comes in, and Whisper says, thank you very much, I will target lock a thing. I could have barreled here, but I like my position. It's not terrible. A barrel would have put me on the other side of the rock, which would have been nice, but I think the target lock is more useful. I need to confirm the kill, just in case someone whiffs. I don't want to risk not killing Blount. That would have been a really big deal. So, Whisper goes there, takes the passive sensors. Wedge does the 1 bank. He has to clear stress at some point. So Wedge slots in there, at which point he might have a shot on Inky. Probably does. He's opened his foils, so he can't boost anymore, so he just has to take focus. He's got an angry Whisper on his side, so he can't really target lock. So Wedge checks for arc. And it turns out, I don't think he's in. So he just misses the back of Inky, which is a really, really big deal. Because it would have been a range 3, but it still would have been 3 against 3. The more times that Dan shoots here, the more chance he has of just wiping Inky off the board. So I'm just trying as hard as I can to just dodge shots here. Oh, sorry, no, he is in. So Wedge is in, so he shoots. He gets 3 hits again, and at this point it's getting frustrating. And then I roll 3 evades out of hand, and everything's fine. So yeah, Inky spent his focus for his life, and Wedge does no damage, which is lucky from Inky there. So that was a good moment. Um, Inky then says, right, I'll be having you, and shoots at Blount. Wants to guarantee the kill, so spends both of his force points, and Blount goes down. So we've killed a ship. This is good. And points wise, we're catching up. 59 to 76. As long as I don't take too much damage, we're doing okay. This is all right. Now, Whisper has an opportunity to pot shot. I'm not really sure which ship I'm going to shoot here. Because of the fact that Wedge is range 3 through an asteroid and has a focus token, I'm expecting him to get 3 evade dice. So because I don't have a good shot on Wedge here, I'm seriously considering shooting Braylon. Because, yes, he's stressed, but I can probably get 2 damage into the B-Wing. I'm going to have to kill him at some point. Getting early damage into a stressed B-Wing is a really good idea. I could even decloak this way and get shots into Braylon next turn, leave Wedge for later, and hopefully just dodge him. But I know that Wedge is the threat, so after a bit of umming and ahhing, I eventually decide, no, ride the dice variance. You might get lucky and get a hit on Wedge. And I did. So Wedge only gets 2 evades here, and I get a crit through. Now the crit is a fuel leak, which does nothing at this point, but that's fine. It's just another damage, so it makes it much more likely that Wedge is going to die next turn. So I'm now in a pretty good position, but I have to be careful of a couple of things. Wedge is very angry and will shoot before my ships. He can PS kill something if he gets lucky, and he can do some serious damage to Whisper here. So I can't really decloak forwards. If I decloak forwards and I get it wrong and I don't block Wedge, then Wedge gets a range 1 shot to Whisper and I'm roasted. 4 against 1, not good. He's going to get a focus because Jake can just do a hard one here. He can barrel roll that way or he can boost in. Gives Wedge that focus. So Wedge is going to have a focus target lock. That's really bad news, Bears. For whoever ends up in front of him. So what I want to be doing is I want to just accept the fact that Wedge has the focus, and I want to be getting a block onto him with one of my ships. Now, the Grand Inquisitor is the best one to block with because of the fact that I can spend a force to reduce the dice incoming. I'm hoping here, because of the positions of the ships, it's likely that this guy is going to K-turn. Braylon is probably just going to be doing a 1 bank down here to come around next turn. He can do a little 1 bank and then he can Talon around the asteroid or do the 1 bank in the 2k. And then Wedge will be turning in, trying to kill Whisper. Seems sensible. Alternatively, he'll have dialed a 1 bank. He'll boost it Wedge with Jake and then 1 bank, and come in here. So Whisper could have gone this way, but she's got a rock to contend with. I did seriously consider going over the asteroid for a couple of seconds. But you never know where Jake's going to be. There was too much of a risk of doing a hard 2 and a boost to here. So I couldn't risk going straight over the asteroid 4 forwards or 3 forwards to be sitting here because I thought it would be too much of a risk of just sitting on the asteroid for next turn. And yeah, can't be doing that. So the best move with Whisper here, to the delight of Alex Davey, is to decloak this way and 1 bank straight onto the debris cloud. I have the force, I have the evade, and I already have the target lock from last turn because I never spent it. Because I have all of that, or maybe I don't. I don't see it, but I've got lock. Yeah, so there was the target locks. I never spent the locks. I never actually put them on in the first place because I just declared passive sensors and then rolled all hits. So I've got the lock from that turn. So Whisper with full mods is perfectly happy to just sit on a debris cloud because she's 1 bank will allow me decloak options off it next turn. I can disengage. I have to kill Wedge here. This is my perfect opportunity. He's on 1 health. So as long as I don't take too much damage back, I'll be fine. The key point is not taking too much damage back. So just going back a bit, just so we can see the board again. I'm thinking Wedge is coming in here, so Inky needs to be sitting there. If it was me, I would have gone for Whisper. So I would have dialed in a 3 hard from Wedge or the 1 bank. So Inky, if he did the hard 2 and the boost, there's a possibility that Wedge goes straight over the top of him, and I cannot let that happen. So Inky has to dial in a hard 1 and just sit here. He's going to be right there. It will block the 1 bank, 1 bank. It will block the 3 hard. It will not block the 2. I know that. It sucks, but I'm going to have to deal with it because there isn't a move that I can do that will block both the 2 and the 3. If I do the 2, again, it still won't block the 2 and it won't block the 1 bank from coming in. So I think it's much more likely with the boost option that I have to stop Wedge from doing anything of that and make sure that he doesn't get Arc on Whisper. That was my thinking. There was a possibility that I should have just not decloaked. Not cloaked this turn with Whisper and done a 2 forwards. The problem with that is if Wedge did manage to get a good shot on Whisper, he would have been at range 1, and that would have really hurt. So what I'm doing here with Whisper is I'm just getting some range, hopefully getting more evade dice, and mitigating the damage that I would take. I'm expecting to do damage with Whisper here, so I don't mind spending my evade, because Whisper is going to be the one to finish Wedge, so she will get the evade back. So, moving forwards, those are my thoughts for the turn. Coming in, so we get some last styles down, lots of thinking going on here. Want to make sure that I know exactly where Wedge is going and get as much option as possible. So Dan is also trying to work out how he's going to catch me. Right now his ships are a bit too spread. It was really good for him to have spread ships at the start of the game, but now he wants to collapse his ships a bit more close together and get them all pointed the same way. Because Inky has spent a couple of turns dodging everything, I've really put him out of position here. So, Whisper decloaks this way. Forwards or backwards, forwards or backwards. We go backwards because I'm still going to clear the asteroid with the 1 bank, so I still have 2 decloak options next turn. I can decloak over this way when I land, or I can decloak forwards. The Z comes around this way. I wasn't sure why this happened or why he didn't just do the 3k, but I think he was trying to keep his ships unstressed. He wasn't entirely sure where I was going to go. Also, it provides him with a really nice option for blocking Braylon, because this comes in and thunk, Braylon crashes right into the Z, probably intentional. It provides him with a really, really nice Talon Roll option for next turn. I really like this as a move. It slows Braylon down, it keeps him in the thick of it, it keeps him from getting too far away. There's the 1 hard from Jake. So Jake does the 1 hard, probably does a little curvy boost in here as well. And will give that focus to Wedge because the curvy boost will end up at range 1 of Wedge. The rear corner will still be in arc, still be in range 1. So does a little curvy boost, takes the focus already, so he has the focus. He stresses himself out to do the boost, and there we go. Gets the focus onto Wedge. Everyone was expecting it, and it's there. So that's a pain. Inky does the hard 1. And is a little bit sad because Jake now has him in arc. However, as I was saying, I cannot commit to the boost. I know he could have done the hard 2, but he's probably done the hard 3 to get close to Whisper. I can't let him get that target lock if he's going to lock on Whisper. And if he's done the hard 2, he's still only at range 3 of Whisper, so that's not terrible. So I move onto the asteroid. I leave Inky there. Because even with the, if I've got the evade, he still gets a shot on Wedge. So there is a possibility that Whisper whiffs. Maybe I'll be able to shoot Wedge with Inky and kill him. Also, if Wedge is shooting Inky, he's not shooting Whisper, and he might take that bait. So, he does the hard 2, and he doesn't crash. I'm super sad. But he decides to take the range 1 here. Now, I was shocked, because he has a range 2 on Whisper, and he also has a crack shot on Whisper. You can't quite see it here, but he's got the crack shot arc in arc. So I was genuinely surprised that he decided to pour firepower into Inky, because with Inky's ability and the evade token, he shouldn't do much damage here. Unfortunately, he gets 3 hits, and I roll 2 blanks, so he gets the 2 shields. That was not what I was expecting. Like Inky, even against Wedge, doesn't take more than 1 shield on a very regular basis. It's normally the fact that Inky will just take a single point of damage, which is absolutely fine because then he can take the shot from Jake, no problems. He'll probably take another hit from the A-Wing, but he only goes down to half, not a problem. Now I don't have an evade token, and I have no force, and I'm right in front of Jake, and that's a problem. However, I can kill Wedge, and Whisper says, thank you very much. Oh, sorry, this is Inky. So Inky shoots Wedge and spends his focus. not terrible, a bit annoying because I was hoping to get a really good shot from Whisper into the B-Wing here and just start murdering it. Whisper gets 2, spends the lock, gets her 3, and Wedge goes down. I was getting really nervous about Wedge not dying that turn. But Whisper does it. She gets the evade token. Very nice. And then we go for Jake. Now, so very dead Wedge. All the things. The judge asked Dan to put it in the dice tray just to show it, which I thought was a bit mean. We know he's dead. I know that people at home want to see. Right, now this is a point where I get a little bit lucky. Possibly makes up for Dan's hot dice earlier in the game. But this is lucky. So only a single hit from Jake there. So Grand Inky says, I'll take an evade. Thank you very much. Yeah, compensating a little bit for the earlier damage that was put out. Always nice when you don't take damage. So, yeah, Grand Inky's been quite swingy. Like, he took 2 hits when he shouldn't have done, but then he took no damage when he should have taken the damage. So, on average, it kind of averages out, but also, yeah, it feels bad at the time. It always feels bad on both players when you get black dice. So just checking for the asteroid here, because Whisper was overlapping the rock. Turns out it is a range 3 shot because of the arc. But not through the asteroid, so it's going to be 2 against 3. Zed against Whisper. Whisper's got an evade, doesn't really mind. So single crit. She's got the evade. Just spends and is safe. So Whisper recloaks. And now we're in a good position. So I might not be up on points, but I'm up in the game. So I've taken half on Inky. I've lost Vader. However, I have a fully healthy Whisper in a very good position. Unfortunately, Braylon isn't stressed, so I can't come in aggressive here. I have to go away with Whisper. But I can spend a couple of turns just going, right, this is fine. Get Whisper back into a good position and come back around. Now, it's on Dan to threaten Whisper and make sure that she cannot come back around, but also he needs to put some damage into Inky. Now, the great thing is here is that the Grand Inquisitor has a perfect K-turn opportunity. Because of the fact that that little Zed did the hard 3 last turn and not a 3K, the Grand Inquisitor can now K-turn with impunity because of the fact that there is nothing that's going to be pointing his way. Braylon is going to be doing a talon roll here. The Zed is going to be doing a turn around the corner. And Jake is probably going to be doing a turn to the left to try and catch Whisper. It seems incredibly unlikely that anything is going to be focusing on the Grand Inquisitor. So he can just turn around, get into a lovely little position, and take some free shots. So the Zed is going to be coming around here. No problems. Whisper can't decloak forward, so she's got to go this way. She's stressed, so she's going to go that way. And I decided to do the 2 bank over here. I could have done the hard one, but with Braylon and the Zed turning around, I'm just inviting shots. I don't want to get shot. I need to get away with Whisper this turn. But with these guys coming around, it allows me to K-turn Jake up to here and take some good shots. I K-turn Inky over here and get some good shots. So, moving on. There goes the decloak. So, with the decloak over to there, don't get the evade because I'm stressed. And then it's Dan's move. So little Zed comes around the corner. There's his hard 2. Seems fairly sensible. He takes a focus and prepares to shoot Whisper. And Braylon does the obvious. There it is. Does the talon roll. So. And then we have Jake. So Jake is stressed, so he has to do the hard 2. And he doesn't have any barrel roll options because of where Whisper is. And he doesn't have a boost option, so Jake just has to stay there. Now, Dan makes a big mistake here. Is it a big mistake? I don't know. He decides to target lock. He's got to get good mods, so he target locks Inky because he's not expecting him, based on how I've been flying, to K-turn. Inky does the K-turn and says, well, thank you very much. Jake is now unmodded. Now, there's a lot of people that would think, right, what's the next ship to shoot here? The Zed has a focus. probably obstructed. Braylon has 3 dice with rerolls. I'm never going to do damage to these guys, but I could do damage to Jake. So I decided to shoot Jake here. Now, Whisper does a 2 bank. There we go. Now, isn't in Braylon's bullseye arc. Is in the Zeds, but this one doesn't have crack shot. So the only one I'm in is the initiative one that doesn't have crack. Braylon's at range 3, so I decided to take the cloak token because I'm getting shot by 2 things. A cloak token basically completely ignores any shots coming in from this guy. And Braylon, I'm thinking, right, he's only got 1 modification. He'll probably get 2 hits this time round. Even if he gets 3, I should be able to dodge it with this. And then we'll see what happens when it comes to the Zed. Taking a single shield here isn't too much of a problem. So, what I decide to do here, shooting Jake, Inky has an option to either spend a single force point to increase the dice to 3 dice, or I can save the force point for a modification. I think it's better to get 2 hits using the force of focus than it is to spend for 3 and chase variance. So I decide to do that. I keep the 2, I keep it, and I roll hit an eyeball, hit a crit. And because Dan didn't take the focus, I get a hit through. So that's half points on Jake. So I'm now winning. For those of you paying attention, we would have 8 minutes left on standard game time. So if this was a normal game, and a lot of people were saying, oh, it shouldn't be a 2-hour final, etc., etc. This was the situation with 8 minutes to go. So it's a little bit squeaky, but it's a good game. So Braylon gets 3 eyeballs, can only reroll 2, and gets blanks. That's pretty unfortunate. But I did have the 5 of 8 dice, sorry, with an eyeball. A pretty good chance of dodging that shot. Right, and then the Zed gets 1, and Whisper says, thank you very much. Doesn't really care. Has the force anyway. Right. Whisper is still in a bad position here. She just has to escape. I'm doing well, and I know I've got 50 minutes left, because it is the final. I am just going to disengage. So Whisper is going to get as much distance as possible. She's cloaked. So because she's cloaked, she can just decloak forwards and either 3 bank or 3 hard. And then if she needs to, she can barrel roll away as well. Dan probably knows this. But I also have to be super careful with the Inquisitor, because if the Inquisitor comes anywhere around here, let's just zoom forward a little bit. If the Inquisitor comes anywhere around here, he is going to get jumped on by these 2, because Dan's going to go fast, but not that fast. Braylon's probably just going to do a 1 bank and then fail the barrel roll and get good shots at Whisper. There is a possibility, because he's done it before, that he could do a 2 bank as well and just stay stressed. But again, that puts him in prime range for shooting the Inquisitor. So we've got to be careful. He's thinking about the Zed here. He doesn't know really what he wants to do with it. So there we go. Right, there's the decloak. Decloak forwards. 3 hard coming in from Whisper, just trying to get away. I seriously considered coming up this way, but there was too much risk of Jake blocking me. I didn't know where he'd go, and I didn't want to risk getting Whisper caught in a bad position. It would take too many turns for her to get around as well. So going here, if he does commit up this way, will allow me to come in the side very easily. Little Zed comes in here looking for the block. Braylon crashes in behind with a 2 bank, I think, to keep him stressed and get mods. Jake just goes, well, cool, you're going down there. We're just going to shoot you then. Does the boost. Gets a free focus because he's already got a target lock. Very nice. Oh, no, sorry, he's got a target lock over here. So, yeah, he just goes, cool, I'll take the focus. Thank you very much. I'm not stressed. Braylon goes, oh, no, he does go forwards. Cool. So, very nice 3 forwards here, which is now blue on a B-Wing. B-Wings can go straight faster than X-Wings. And then he gets his stress back and rolls over here. Nice little move, that. I like that a lot. He had to get the Zed out of the way. I thought he was coming for the block, but he gets the Zed out of the way for the B-Wing move. And he gets really good range on Whisper. So, Inky just decides that he doesn't want to play this game anymore because he's now in a really good position. Inky is now in a game-winning position because he can just chew down on these ships over here. A very easy, hard one to boost around the corner for next turn. He just starts putting some decent damage into either the Zed or the B-Wing. Now, Whisper's pretty unhappy right now. I have 2 options. I can barrel roll, or I can cloak. I've already got the evade. The reason, if I'd have barrel rolled here, I might have got out of range of Braylon, but I didn't know if I was going to get out of range of Braylon. Braylon has a focus and a stress. He's going to get 3 hits. That's how that works. So even at range 3, I'm taking a shot from Jake and a shot from Braylon. If I have to spend my evade token on defense, I'm not going to get a decloak, and that's really big. So I cloak up here so I know that I can spend the evade token on defense. So that's my thinking. That I have the decloak as an option, even if I spend all of my tokens. So Braylon shoots. Dan struggles to roll a dice in the dice tray, gets the 3 hits, as expected. I then roll all of my dice on the table because I was so damn distracted. And then I have to spend everything because I don't get enough evades. So I don't have a focus, I only have the force, so I can spend 1 force point for an eyeball, spend the evade, and don't take any damage, but both of my tokens are gone. This is the reason why I decided to do the cloak, because it would still leave me with tokens. I believe that is range 3, but let's just check. No, it is range 2. So we get a range 2 shot from Jake. Jake says 2 hits, please. And Whisper only gets the 1 evade. So does take a shield. So we're slowly chewing down Whisper. You can see here the problem with just these consistent rebels, that if they are getting shots at me, I am going to take this damage. Lil Zed isn't in range in the end. So, looking back to Dials, we'll just get that out of the way and then pause so we can talk. Whisper has a nice decloak option this way and then a hard one. Problem with this is if Dan calls it, I'm in trouble. I also have a good decloak option this way and a 3 bank, or I could even decloak 4k. So at this point, do I worry about the Z95? Not really. I mean, I have to worry about him shooting me. If he gets to range 1, he's in a big trouble. But it's the same thing about Jake. As long as these guys are at range 2, my aces aren't really worrying about their shots. It's Braylon that does the damage. Even though it looks like Jake did the damage to me there, it's the fact that Braylon forced me to spend all of my tokens that meant that Jake could even do damage. So Braylon is the worry. I have to get him down ASAP. I know that I've half health Jake, but even though he's half, he's still not so much of a problem. Because if it gets down to an endgame of Jake and a Zed, basically the kill order here is unless he throws me Jake, I kill Braylon, then I kill the Zed, and then I kill Jake right at the end. Because, yeah, there's no sense in worrying about little A-Wing unless he's at range 1. If I manage to get Jake at range 1 of me, then I can kill him. If not, then I don't bother shooting him. This comes important later. Moving on, Inky has a very clear turn around the corner. So he'll just do a hard one and a boost into the back of the formation. Whisper is likely going to continue running here. I considered turning in and pumping some shots into Braylon. But I wasn't quite sure where Braylon was going to go. So we put in some moves. And right, so decloak goes forwards. And we get little Zed. Now it seems from here that this was the turn Dan was expecting me to commit. And he comes in really hard with the Zed here. Takes a focus, because there is still an option that I could hard turn left. That's still a definite option. And then we go for the B-Wing. So he's just thinking here about whether he wants a target lock or whether he wants to focus. He takes the focus because he's not sure whether or not he's going to need defense. Because if both Whisper and Inky shoot the Zed, then it's going to be range 1 on that Zed. Zed's in trouble. Okay, SA Judge, what's your hardest matchup? Aces with a stronger bid or maybe a swarm? The thing I really like about this list is it doesn't really have a bad matchup. Probably the hardest game I played was my Nantex games, or the Boba and Fen. Aces with a bid is tough, but because of passive senses, it's not too bad. Something that can burn me down very quickly is a massive threat. So Fen Rao and Boba is a problem. Proximity mines are a pain. And the Seer Swarm is very annoying because Discord missiles are a pain in the ass. So it seems very clear here that Dan was expecting me to decloak backwards. He had a very nice barrel roll available for the B-Wing here. So we could 3/4s and then barrel down to the side. He gets a really good option if I'm over here of just murdering me with Braylon at close range, because all he wants to do is trade at this point. If he can kill Whisper, he can win the game. So it's my job to get Whisper out of Arc. So yeah, good call, Judge. I mean, yeah, I would say the Swarm is probably my hardest matchup, but that's why I have Whisper, because Whisper does horrible, horrible things to droids. And as you can see here, she's very good at getting out the way of things. So the Nantex is a horrible game, but I put a lot of practice into it, and it helps that I have Vader with passive sensors. Because Vader and Whisper with passive sensors allow me to just take a target lock and go, cool, you can't be here because I'm going to shoot you in the face with crits. And the Nantex don't like that. What you have to work out is when to engage the Nantex. The only turn you engage the Nantex is at range 3. What I want to do is I want to get a game against the Nantex on stream. Might see if I can get someone to play it against me on Vassal. See if I can play it well. Because none of my Nantex games at Worlds got streamed, which was quite frustrating. But hey. So there goes the hard one. He boosts around the corner, takes the stress. I boost to get out of Jake's crackshot arc, but also I get a good shot on Braylon. So, Dan decided not to barrel roll here. He wanted to be unstressed because he's obviously going to K-turn next turn. Whisperer is again just getting out of trouble. She's in no arcs this turn, so she just takes... she won't take a passive sensors here because she wants better board position. You can see here, if I just pause it, I cannot decloak either way right now. The only decloak option I have is forwards. So I have two options here for next turn. Do I want to be decloaking up the board, or do I want to be decloaking towards the board edge? I want to get myself some distance, so I want to make Dan think that I'm going to be decloaking this way and doing the hard one. Because the Z can very easily come around the corner. So if I barrel roll up this way, then I can threaten the decloak sideways and then poofing up this way, which is quite nice. So, decloak forwards as possible. And there we go. Oh, sorry, Judge. Basically, it doesn't like analysis because you said anal. I need to change that. We'll get there. So, the great thing about this, Judge, is that every single one of my games streamed from Worlds are now on YouTube. Check out my channel. youtube.com/c/Ollie_186. That is OLI. You're here, so you know how to spell it. But yeah, this is game 7 out of 7. 7 of my 14 games were streamed, and I've reviewed every single one. So there we go. Sorry, I need to actually talk about this. There's stuff going on. But yeah, all of my games are online. So yeah, you can go watch them. And I've done exactly the same as this. I've done the analysis for every single game, so you can see my thought process throughout the game. Right, so shooting. Grand Inky shoots here. Now, a lot of people were shouting at me, why didn't I shoot Jake? The reason I didn't shoot Jake is Jake has 3 agility and a focus. If I shoot him, I might do a damage, maybe, but I also might not do any damage. And Braylon is the big threat. Right now, Braylon has no stress token, he has no focus token, he has no modifications. I have a lovely opportunity to put some decent damage into him at long range, and then carry on shooting him later. I can never joust Braylon when he's fully healthy, because the fact he has so much damn health, you can't initiative kill a B-Wing. So putting some decent damage into a B-Wing early on is a really good way of coming back later and getting it with an initiative kill. So that's the idea here. So I decide that Inky is going to shoot at Braylon. He got 2 force, so he spends one of them for the modification. It's a range 3 shot. I stand in front of the camera like a moron, and I think I get 3 hits here. So I get hit, eyeball, eyeball. I spend the focus for 3 hits into Braylon, and Dan doesn't get any evades, and he can't reroll because he doesn't have that stress, because otherwise he would have got 2 rerolls on those dice. There wouldn't have been any point in shooting him. I would have just shot at Jake. So then Jake gets 2 hits, Inky gets the average and spends the force to stay alive. I was very happy spending my focus here because I knew I had the force. Average green dice is evade, blank, eyeball, so even if Jake gets 2 hits, I shouldn't take any damage with Grand Inquisitor. So that's why he was happy to be chilling here at range 2 of Jake. And this is my point about Jake not being a threat unless he's at range 1. And even if he's at range 1 of the Grand Inquisitor, I can spend a force and just not care. So if Jake was at range 1, I wouldn't have spent on the attack, I would have just kept onto the focus for my defensive modification, and I would have used a single eyeball from the force to do that. So we were just checking stuff and checking shields and everything else. I think I'd forgotten to take something off, so yeah, judges were just checking that. So thank you very much to them. So let's just go forward so we can see the board state. La 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 la. Right. Damn it, spoilers. There we go. So, because I'm in the chasing position, interesting approach. Used to go over to lower HP targets. So that's the idea. Normally I do focus my fire, but in this specific situation, I'm not expecting to be able to get damage into Jake, and my aces, I just need to be doing as much damage as possible to start chewing down his ships. So in this situation, I decided to shoot the thing I knew I could get damage on, because I wasn't sure how much damage I would do. I only had a single focus mod, so I decided to shoot Braylon. So yeah, good call on that. That was it's good to chat about why. And yeah, after playing 2 months ago, awesome. You're doing the right thing. This is some good videos to watch to learn some stuff. I can toot my own horn. So Decloak's here. I can go this way in hard 1, but he's probably expecting that. Or I can go 2 forwards and 4K. I could have also decloaked sideways in 4K, but that would have still left me into marks. I'm expecting Jake to try and block Inky here. So I was feeling fairly safe, but I was expecting a Talon roll or a 2K from Braylon. And I was hoping here that I can get a good shot on the Z from Whisper, that if I decloak up this way and do the 4K. Really, what I should have done is I should have just done the hard. This was a mistake on my part, I think. Because of the fact that I can have the barrel roll options either way, Whisper's still fairly healthy. I could have just done some serious damage here to Dan's ships. And I think Whisper should have just turned in. Inky should have just turned in. Yeah, I mean, we'll look into this in a second. So I do the 2 forwards here. Yeah, I think I probably should have just decloaked this way. Would have been sensible. Because the Z can't do the hard 3 because he couldn't risk me staying there. And it would have meant that doing the hard 1, I would have just got an unanswered shot on the K-turn Z. So there we go. Everyone does the K-turn. The hard 1 from Whisper would have been beautiful, but Dan called my move quite well because he knew I was playing super, super careful at this point. If I'd have done the hard 1, could I have done anything else? Well, so talking about Inky's move here. Now, this I was expecting. I knew Jake was stressed. Because he was stressed, or he can't really go slow, his normal expectation would be to block any moves, any slow moves to the Grand Inquisitor, like turning away, like just going, okay, Grand Inky doesn't want to be here. Which is why I dialed in a 2 forwards with the Grand Inquisitor. Because this place is exactly where Jake doesn't want to be, because he's not pointing at anything and he's not really blocking anything. So Whisper does the 4K. Not a terrible position. Is stressed, but that's fine. And Inky does a 2 forwards. There we go. So Inky gets 2 forwards down, knows that he isn't going to crash into the rock, and has the rock for protection. So I decide to barrel roll up this way. Now, this is an interesting one, because I'm thinking here about whether or not I want to stress myself out. Stressing myself out here is probably the worst case scenario, because when I do the barrel roll, you'll see that the 1 bank doesn't fit. The 3 bank does, so if I want to turn around the asteroid, I'm going to have to do a 3 bank next turn. So I leave myself unstressed. I don't think I'm in Braylon's arc here. I might be. But I'm only getting shot by 1 thing, maybe a long range Z. And I don't really want to do a straight move next turn, because I was thinking that maybe the Z would come up here. I don't know. Looking back at this, I think this was another mistake. I should have focused just for the extra modifications. But anyway, that's that. So this was a fairly non-committal turn. We checked for some range. Braylon wasn't in. The Z was, it basically doesn't do any damage because it's a Z at long range. And we get the Recloak from Whisper. At this point, I realise I've put Whisper in a bit of a dangerous decision. A bit of a dangerous spot. Braylon can come in fairly hard. Inky isn't really in a good position to do anything because he's got the 3 bank and the boost, but that's about it. And Whisper is getting pounced on. I feel like maybe I should have gone straight here. I'm not sure, or maybe just on a 1 bank and stay stressed. I don't know. There wasn't really a good option. But so I decloak backwards. Zed comes in here to threaten Inky, and the B-Wing does the 1 bank around the Z, and then we'll do the barrel roll in a second. We'll just get the Z back. There we go. So the B-Wing does the barrel roll. Really nice positioning here from Braylon. And in he comes, just like that. Beautiful. Goes forwards as far as possible because he wants shots. There we go. And Jake comes around there. That was the obvious move from Jake. So, I just want you to have a look at this board position. This is the turn where I make a humongous mistake. This could have lost me the game right here. The problem that I had is that I looked at this and I went, I don't think Braylon's in range. He's out. I look at it and go, right, that's just out. It's going to be Nubs. He's not going to be in range of me. At which point, if I'm just trading one-on-one shots with Jake, I have 2 options. I can barrel roll without an evade and just have a force for modification. If I do that, I'm in trouble. So I've cleared the stress, but I haven't got an evade token. So the best way of keeping myself safe right now is by doing a damage, because not only does it get Jake to probably spend his focus token, if I can do 1 damage to Jake, which I should do because I should get 3 hits with the force and the target lock. If I get 3 hits on Jake, I'll probably do a damage, I'll probably get my evades, and then he spent his focus, so I'll be safe, right? Or at the very least, I'll take a shield, and I'll have the evade for the decloak next round. Even if I have to spend the evade, I still have the option of a 2 forwards here, just do a horrendous amount of damage into Braylon, with Inky coming around the back as well. I should trade well enough into Braylon that I can hopefully take out the rest of Dan's ships in the next round, and I shouldn't lose Whisper. I think I should have barrel rolled. The barrel roll was the correct decision. Just accept the fact that Jake was going to get a shot and traded shots with him. But I decided that it was better for me to get shots than to go and take a cloak or something like that. Because of my options, and I didn't really think Braylon was in range. So Whisper has a think about life for quite a while, because I'm umming and ahhing about whether or not it's in range. And I decided to take the passive sensors because I decided it's out of range. Inky then boosts out of arc, has a really nice option for the turn in on Braylon next turn, which is the other reason for my taking the passive sensors. Now, what I should have done, because I zoned in on Jake here. I went, okay, Jake's my only target. He's out of range. I didn't even check. If I'd have checked, then maybe I would have taken a shot at Braylon. Although probably not, because he's got his focus. He's got his rerolls. But yeah, I think I should have taken a shot at Braylon here, because then halving Braylon gets some decent damage for me, even if Whisper then goes down to half. I'm in a good place because Braylon is already down to half, and Inky can come in and do some damage to him next turn. As it is, I immediately take a target lock on Jake because I'm an idiot. And I take a shot. So let's see what happens. Whisper gets the 3. There's the crit. And Dan rolls unlucky. He only gets a single symbol, so Jake's down. This is when the dice bailed me out. So that was a big mistake turn. I could have lost the game there. I was in 2 crack shots. Whisper could have died this turn. It was unlikely, but I mean, we saw that Vader died previously. I feel like there were some rounds in the game where one of us got lucky and one of us got unlucky. The first engagement with Vader, Dan got lucky. He got all hits. I didn't get enough evades, and he kills Vader. He's up in the game. This round and the round where, so I think it's just this round actually. This is the round where the luck really swung in my favor because Jake shouldn't have died there. He shouldn't have died. The round in the middle, which was kind of half and half, was where Wedge was shooting at the Grand Inquisitor and Jake was also shooting at the Grand Inquisitor. 2 shields in that situation is actually about average, with 1 force and evade on Inky. So I'm not, even though the way it happens was that Wedge did 2 damage and then Jake did nothing, I feel like that was more or less fair in the damage into the Grand Inky there. A lot of people have picked up on that turn of shooting from Jake against Inky and this turn of shooting against Jake as, oh, I diced my way to victory. Yes, you're correct. I rolled some dice. I won. And you need some luck to win one of these events. Like there are turns where I did get lucky, but I am reasonably happy with the fact that if you average out all of the dice through this game, it's pretty much on evens. This was one of the reasons that this was such a good game, is that both myself and Dan flew it really well, especially considering after how many games we played. And the dice were pretty average all the way through. Like, yeah, there were some spikes, but yeah, I thought that was worth saying. And also to address SA Judge's statement here, is it hard to play with an extended round? You have to change your mentality. So a lot of people don't like the final being extended. The final used to be completely untimed, which is interesting. I played a 3.5 hour final in the Nordic National Final, the other big tournament that I won. So 3.5 hours makes for an interesting game because you have to make sure you kill your opponent. I didn't finish a game apart from this one. The only game that I finished was against Niels Voss, who killed me, who wiped me out. So all of the other games that I won and one of the ones that I lost went to time. So that is 13 out of 14 games basically that went over an hour and 15 minutes, and the one that went to that did go to time was about 5 minutes from the end because Niels took most of the game to wipe me out in that one. Yeah. So because of the nature of my list, because of the way that I play, very cagey, I don't go to time very often. So I do have to change my mentality going to a final, because if I was to carry on playing the way that I did originally, I mean, I start off the game that way, but I'm aware that I have to get a good end game set up, which was why I was willing to joust Wedge and not just run away in the first engagement. Running away in the first engagement would have been the sensible decision in an hour and 15-minute game. But yeah, I don't have an issue with it being a final. I think the reason that FFG has a 2-hour final is they want to have a winner instead of just having a timeout in the final. I think it would be nice to keep it an hour and 15 because then it's consistent. But it's kind of cool. So there we go. So, dead Jake. Jake went poof. That is unlucky for Dan. And now he has a decent shot from Braylon. Now, this, just have a look at how close that is. He actually has his range ruler over the nub there, very slightly, so it is just on the edges. Like, that is a millimeter in range. It's very, very, very close. At which point, I'm a little bit frustrated. And I'm very glad that Jake just died, because yeah, that was a big deal. So, laggy dice cam, Braylon gets 3, and Whisper gets 3 out of hand. So on average here, I should get evade, focus blank. I would have absolutely spent my evade to keep myself healthy here. I don't need to decloak. I just need to joust Braylon next turn. He's only on 5 health. So Whisper would have just... Inky would have turned in 1 hard. Whisper would have gone 2 forwards, taken a passive sensors, and it just would have been a case of going, okay, Whisper's dead, but Braylon is roasted this turn. Let's just trade Whisper for Braylon because Inky wins against the Zed. That would have been the way that would have gone. Would have made the final a little bit longer, but yeah, that would have been it. Rolling 3 evades here is lucky, but wouldn't. There's no crits in that roll, so I would have taken 2 damage instead of 1 damage. But it wouldn't have changed the game at the end. That would have been the same result. And if Whisper gets blocked by Braylon, all the better for me because then I get to take 2 shots into the Zed instead of taking shots into Braylon. So that's the idea. So the problem is here is he's got crack shots. I never had the evade in the first place because I was stressed when I decloaked. And because Braylon has crack shots, I can with 2.0 you can no longer add the evade. You are only limited to the amount of dice you roll. So I knew that I could only roll 3 dice here, and therefore I was taking at least 1 damage. Braylon got 3. So yeah, that was the idea here. I was expecting to take 2 damage from Braylon. As it was, only took 1 because I got lucky. So there we go. At this point, Dan knows that he's in a really bad spot. As long as I don't make a mistake here, I've won the game. That was a big dice swing in my favour. So what I now need to do is I now need to get out of trouble. The best thing to do here, if we just skip forwards to where our certain B-wing is going to be. There we go, lovely. So because he's stressed, he doesn't have the 1 bank option down here. He has a 1 forward and a barrel roll either way. The Z is just going to come around the corner. He could K-turn, but what's the point? So Whisper, the safest move is going to be to decloak down this way, do a bank maneuver, and then barrel roll. Because that should put me around behind the asteroid, and then Braylon won't be able to shoot me, and I should be able to shoot either Braylon or the Z. It doesn't matter who I shoot, as long as I'm getting shots and not getting shot back. So that's the idea here. I think if there's one criticism of Dan in the second half of the game is that he doesn't, really for the entire game, he doesn't really leverage this little blocking Z as much as he could. But I think that's the nature of the beast against the Inquisitors and Whisper, is that this Z just doesn't get to play the game as much because I can just dodge him. He's a good blocker. He's forced me to go and be really careful. But because I've played Super KG for most of the game, the Z hasn't really had the opportunity to play the game in that regard. So there goes the decloak. Whisper goes down there. I've dialed in a 3 bank, so I just need to make sure it doesn't crash. So I go backwards here because going backwards actually gives me a better distance, and there's a risk of me crashing into Braylon, so I wanted to make sure I didn't crash into Braylon. Z comes around the corner, can't do the barrel roll because there is a B-wing in the way. So we'll just take a focus. There he goes, and Braylon says, I'm angry. I wants to keep his arc as open as possible, so he just stays there. Fails the barrel roll for a focus. Oh no, he wants access to the K-turn next turn because he needs to win the game. So there we go. Whisper comes in here and says, thank you very much. I won't be in your arc now. And just gets out of the way. Whisper is very happy to just say no consequences and sit there. Inky comes around. Yeah, maybe I should have gone shorter here. I was hoping to get into range 1. But Inky will take a target lock because he's already got the force. We put lots and lots of damage into Braylon here. I mean, he's got 3 dice and 4 dice coming in. He should take a fair bit. He's only got 5 health. I could realistically kill him here. This was the turn I was expecting to get the kill shot. Inky gets 3, Braylon gets 1, so 2 damage there. And Whisper gets slightly below average. And Braylon dodges, so we only do 1, but still 3 damage. It's a 2 health B-wing. There's not much going to be happening here. So just looking at this turn coming up, B-wing is K-turning. It's the only move it's got. I did consider blocking the K-turn here, but then I don't really have a good option, and it puts Whisper in front of the Z. At this point in the game, you want to make sure that you make no mistakes. If you make a mistake here, you can give the game back to your opponent. You have your foot on their throat, so you've got to be super careful not to make a mistake, because this is when complacency can get you killed and lose you the game. So my decisions here, this Z can K-turn and come around this way. The B-wing is definitely going to K-turn. My thinking is that because the B-wing is going to be over here, if Whisper does a decloak this way and hard 3s around the asteroid, she'll be at range 2 of the B-wing. She can take a target lock with her force for a focus. As long as she gets 3 hits, she kills Braylen. Done. That's game over. Someone has to cover for the Z, and if the little Z comes in here, I wasn't quite sure if the 2 hard would fit. Because if a 2 hard fits and a barrel roll, he can block Inky onto the asteroid if Inky does a 2 forwards. Can't let that happen. So Inky decides to do a hard one up this way, because he doesn't want to get blocked into this rock. He does the hard one because if the Z K-turns, he's got the hard one and the boost to get arc on the Z and still do some damage this turn. Whisper can finish off the B-wing, that's fine. So that was my thinking on what would happen there. So we go forwards a bit. Right, checking dials, making sure. And we decloak over that way. Z decides that Whisper was probably going to come in for the block, so the Z goes 3 hard over the rock to try and block Whisper. Makes sense. It's a good move. Just didn't call it right. Also gets him out of the way of Inky, so, doesn't take a damage from the rock. B-wing does a Talon roll. Oh no, it does do the 2k. There we go. For some reason I was expecting the Talon roll here. So B-wing does 2k, covers all the angles. It gives him a bit more distance as well. So Inky just does the hard one up the board. I would have liked to stay there and take an evade, but can't because Whisper's coming in. So Inky will boost, take the focus, and get himself out of dodge. So just keep himself safe. He's got an easy hard one next turn. He can very easily come around and shoot the Z, or finish off Braylen if he needs to, because he can initiative kill him. And Whisper says, "How you doing? I'll take a target lock. Thank you very much." I was a little bit concerned here because I didn't get the range 1, but I was still feeling fairly happy. As long as I can get 3 hits, then I can win this game. So Whisper gets a target lock, rolls some dice. She only gets 2 hits, and I brick it a little bit because I know he's going to reroll, but yeah, Braylen dies. And there we go. Dan played a really good game there. He knows that the Z can't compete with Whisper. And yeah, that's it. And I'm apparently world champion at this point. It's still a shock. Like you can just see my face there, just going like, what the hell is going on? With a little bit of yes. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. A bit of a long one, this one. I wanted to talk through my thinkings there. Dan really deserved to do well at this tournament. I have munched through many Rebel lists with this. Whisper just tears them to pieces, and Dan did a ridiculously good job of shutting it down and getting some really good kill shots. Like Vader just exploded. His moves at the start were really good. I just think that once Whisper got into the mess, he didn't regroup. He kept on trying to spread his net wide and didn't manage to get the good shots. I think against aces, you have to commit to that one big block. You might get it wrong, but if you get it right, you can win the game. And he kept on spreading his ships and going and trying to commit to lots of different angles at once, at which point it meant that his effective firepower wasn't enough to take me down. So there we go. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. That's my assessment of the game, and I'm going to have all of these games in a lovely little series in one go. So you need a kind of a Hail Mary. Yeah, at some point, especially as you're starting to lose ships, you need to go, right, I know that if I spread my ships, I'm just going to get picked off. So I need to go for a decisive block. and a decisive trap to try and catch one of the ships. And there was a couple of turns where Dan did that. There was the point where he moved down to the bottom of the board here. He did the 3 forwards and tried to catch Whisper on the decloak. It just so happened that in this game I managed to call the decloaks most of the time out of the way, and the one time where he did get me right, Whisper diced her way out of trouble. So yeah, sometimes it's not your day. Turns out it was my day on this one, and yeah, we'll go from there. So hey, that's it. That's all 7 games. I'm still going to be going back to doing Vassal games after this, so you can check out all of my Vassal videos. And I'm going to make a playlist of all of these on my YouTube channel so that you guys can watch them back whenever you like in a row. Thanks, Arnar. I think you've been here for every single one of these, so amazing. And you should probably go to bed because it's late for me. It's late for you as well. But thanks, guys, for coming along on the journey. Hopefully you've learned something, and feel free to tell me where I'm wrong and where I've made mistakes, because I need to learn as well. Make sure you talk to your opponents after your games. It's the most important thing you can do. So yeah, have a good time, fly casual, and I hope you enjoy all of your games. See you later.